Welcome back. In this lecture, I'm going to start with control statements. Till now, we have seen that these statements in the source files are generally executed from top to bottom in the order they appear. Can you guess the output in this case? It's very simple. Execution starts with main method, then good morning will get printed, and after that, good evening. Let us verify the output. Right click, run as Java application. As expected, we see good morning first, followed by good evening. But what if I want to execute good morning before 12 noon and good evening after 12 noon? Or I want to print good morning twice and good evening thrice without repeating system.out.println statements? Control flow statements help us in such cases. We have three types of control flow statements in Java. First one is selection statements. These include if else, if else, and switch case. Second one is looping statements. These include while, do while, and for. And the third one is branching statements. These include break, continue, and return. Let us first start with if statement. The if statement is the most basic of all the control flow statements. It executes a statement or block of statements if the specified expression is true. The syntax of if statement is if, then we have a opening round bracket, then Boolean expression, closing round bracket, and then the statement, one statement. Or if opening round bracket, Boolean expression, closing round bracket, and the opening curly bracket, one statement, and closing curly bracket. Or if you have a multiple statements, you can write multiple statements within curly brackets as well. If only one statement needs to be executed when Boolean expression is true, then you can omit the curly brackets. So in this case, these two are similar. But if multiple statements needs to be executed when Boolean expression is true, then curly brackets are compulsory. It is a good practice to use curly brackets in both the cases, whether single statement or multiple statements. But if you are planning to appear for Oracle Certified Associate exam or planning to appear in written test of various software companies, then you will see lots of questions where they don't use curly brackets. And believe me, those are really tricky questions. We will check out some examples on this in a while. Let us first see some simple examples of if statement. Right click on src folder, new, class. In the name text box type if example. Leave the package field blank. Click on finish. If example.java file will open. Let us first add Javadoc comments. Hope you still remember this. / asterisk, press enter, type Javadoc comments. Correct the author information. That's it. Save the file. Go inside class, type main, press Ctrl space to autocomplete. Select main method from the list. Eclipse will type whole main method for you. Let me write a very simple logic here. I'm starting with a variable score of type int. Initial value is 85. Now I want to print excellent onto the console if score is greater than 80. Let me put this logic in code. We will start with if round bracket. Eclipse will provide the closing round bracket, and then we have to write Boolean expression inside the bracket. So Boolean expression is if score is greater than 80, because we have to write only one statement, so we can omit curly bracket over here. Press enter and then provide the system.out.println statement. Type sysout, press Ctrl space, and then type excellent within double quotes. Save the file. Let us check the output. Right click, run as Java application. Over here the value of score is 85 and we are checking is 85 greater than 80. This Boolean expression is true. Yes, 85 is greater than 80. So the control will come inside if block and then we'll execute this statement. As a result, excellent is printed onto the console. In this case, my code is working fine. Though I have tested my code for positive result, let me check it for false expression as well. Let us change the score to 75. Ctrl S, right click, run as Java application, and nothing gets printed onto the console. Why? Because this expression 75 greater than 80 is false. Boolean expression is false here. So control did not go inside if block and hence excellent was not printed. The control went to the ending bracket of main method and program ended successfully. Let me put a bracket around and check the output. Opening bracket, closing bracket, save the file, right click, run as Java application. No output when score is 75. because the Boolean expression is false in this case. Change the score to 85, save it, run it again, and we see excellent onto the console because Boolean expression is true in this case. I would like to print one more statement in case score exceeds 80. Let me add it. Sysout, you passed with grade A. Let me check the output for both true and false Boolean expression. In first case, score is 85, which is greater than 80. Let us check the output. Right click, run as Java application, save it. So in this case, both the statements were printed onto the console. Let us now check false Boolean expression. 75 is not greater than 80. This statement is false. So in this case, nothing should get printed onto the console. Let me verify it. In this case, nothing is getting printed onto the console. What will happen if we remove the curly brackets in this case? Delete this. To delete a line, press Ctrl D, save it. So no compilation error, which is great. So what is the expected result in this case? For true expression, which is if a score is greater than 80, print both the statements. And for false expression, which is when a score is not greater than 80, do not print anything. Let us verify this. First case, when a score is greater than 80, run the program. So when score is greater than 80, I am getting the expected result. Now let's check when score is less than 80. In this case, I am not expecting anything. Let me run it. Oops, this statement is still getting executed. So my logic is working fine when score is greater than 80, but I see some weird behavior when score is not greater than 80. So what happens in this case? If no curly brackets are there, then Java compiler considers only one statement to be a part of if block. It is same as having curly brackets around the first statement and second statement outside the curly bracket. Let me copy and paste the code to make the changes. So for Java compiler, it is same as adding curly brackets around first statement. Let me add it. And second statement is after the bracket. The first if logic and second if logic are identical here. Second system.out.println statement is not a part of if block, and hence it gets printed in both the cases, whether Boolean expression is true or false, because it is outside the if block. Let us check the first case when Boolean expression is true. So in this case, when Boolean expression is true, print this statement, come out of the if block, and then print this statement. So in this case, both the statements get printed onto the console. Let us verify this. Right click, run as Java application. So for true behavior, we see both the statements. Now let us check for the false expression. 75, Control S. In this case, score is 75. This expression is false. The control will not go inside the if block. It will execute the remaining statement, which is outside the if block, and that is why we see this statement onto the console. Let us verify it. So we see the second statement, you pass with grade A. Even though both the if statements are identical, it is easier for the reader to understand the logic if we use curly brackets. But as we have seen, if statements without curly brackets are really confusing, so you will see lots of questions on this in certification exam. Let me copy this code one more time. Control C, Control V. Now let me put this statement on the same line. Save it. Now tell me what will be the output in this case. Nothing changes in this case as well because we removed extra white spaces only. Indentations and white spaces are for human users only and not for compiler. And in Java, anything that ends with semicolon is considered as one statement. So in this case, we have got two statements. This is one statement and this is another statement. And as this if block is without brackets, so compiler will consider first statement to be a part of if block and another outside the if block. So all the three if statements are still identical. Let me verify it. Right click, run as Java application. Still we are getting the same output. Let us now check if else statement. The if else statement executes block of statements if the specified expression is true and executes other block of statement if a specified expression is false. The if else statement has the following syntax: if boolean expression, statement, else statement, or if boolean expression, curly bracket, multiple statements, curly bracket is closed, else, curly bracket is open, multiple statements, and curly bracket is closed. In these cases, if boolean expression is true, execute the if block, otherwise execute the else block. Same here, if boolean expression is true, execute the if block, all the statements in the if block. If boolean expression is false, execute all the statements inside else block. You can omit the curly brackets if there is one statement only, but it is not a recommended practice. But when we have multiple statements, curly brackets are compulsory. Let us check an example on implementing if else. Consider the very first example we have seen. Currently it prints good morning followed by good evening. Let me copy it first so you have the reference of original and changed version. Right click, copy, select the default package, Control V, paste, change the name to if else example, press enter, open if else example. Note that the class name was automatically changed to if else example. Let me change the Java document as well. Class to explain if else statement. Control S. Now what I want to do here is I want to print good morning before 12 o'clock in the afternoon, but if time is after 12 o'clock, then good evening should be printed. Let me implement this logic. Only assumption is that 0 represents midnight and 12 represents afternoon. Let us first create a variable to store R part. Byte R, initialize it to 11, save. Now let us implement the logic. If R is less than 12, then do something, else, then do something. When R is less than 12, I want to print good morning. Let me cut and paste over here. And when R is greater than or equals to 12, print good evening. Delete extra white spaces by pressing Ctrl D, Ctrl S to save the file. My initial value is 11. So what I am expecting? I am expecting this statement to get executed. So let us verify this. Right click, run as Java application, and correctly good morning is getting executed. Now let us check for false expression as well. For 13, this expression will be false because 13 is not less than 12. So save it, right click, run as Java application, and now good evening is getting printed onto the console. One important point you should remember over here is that else block should immediately follow the if block. There should not be any blocks of code in between. So let me explain it. So this is the else block. Over here it is coming after if block. Having multiple white spaces is not an issue. You can have multiple white spaces. Control S, no error. If you run the program, you will still get good evening because R is 13. Let me add one statement over here. Sysout, hello, save it. You get one error. Syntax error on token else, delete this token. This error says else block is not expected over here. Else should immediately follow if block. And you can have any number of comments in between because comments are ignored by the compiler. Let me comment this statement, Control S, and the error is gone. Let us run this example. Same output. Based on what you have learned for if else, can you predict the output of following program? Pause this video, take your time and predict the output. I would request you to not type it in Eclipse or compile and run it. You can use any notepad application or paper and pen to solve it. Correct output is C, compilation error, but if you differ, then you did not pay proper attention earlier. Let me explain the output over here. This question has multiple statements in if block without brackets. So let me add bracket first. Opening bracket. Notepad++ has already provided me the closing bracket, so let me delete it. By default, if no brackets are there, then we can include only one statement inside bracket. So let me add first statement inside bracket. Close the bracket. Let me indent it properly. Now we know else statement should immediately follow the if block. But in this case, else block is not after the if block. There is one statement in between and hence compilation error. Eclipse IDE shows this error. This is the same program and the error is else token is not expected here. Try one more question. Predict the output of this program. Pause the video here and resume after solving it. Correct answer is C, because flag equals to 1 is an int assignment operator and not Boolean expression. Note we have used single equals over here. Let me open this program in Eclipse and verify my answer. Same program. Error is type mismatch because flag equals to 1 result in int and not in Boolean. Only Boolean variables, Boolean expressions and Boolean assignments are allowed over here. Let me use a Boolean variable. Comment the existing code, Control Shift /. Let us write the new code. Boolean flag equals to false, semicolon. Write the code if flag equals true. Control C, Control V, else Control C, Control V, save it. So when we execute this class, control will come to main method. Now this statement will get executed. This statement will create a Boolean variable flag, Boolean type, name is flag, and initial value is false. Now the control will move to this statement if flag equals to true. Now this is an assignment operator, so this will change the value of flag to true. It will erase the previous value and will add new value, true. Current value of flag is true. Now this expression is checking the current value of flag. Flag is true after the assignment. This statement is true, so start will get printed in this case. Let us verify the output. So the output is start. Now if we use double equals operator, what will be the output in this case? Current value of flag is false. Now in this case, because I am using double equals operator, it is comparing the value of flag variable to true. Flag is false. Is false equals to true? No. So this expression is false and hence stop will get printed onto the console. Let us verify this. Right click, run as Java application, and stop was printed onto the console. Now we can completely omit this operator with Boolean expression or variable. So this statement is similar to writing flag equals to true. If flag means if current value of flag is true, print start, otherwise stop. Now what is the current value in this case? Current value of flag is false, so stop will get printed in this case. Let me verify it. Right click, run as Java application, and stop is printed to the console. That's it for this lecture. In the next lecture, we will cover if, else statement.